Welcome to She's Got This, the podcast for ambitious women who want to grow and scale their business and use the power of intentional energy direction to design their very best life. I'm your host, Christine Gallagher, award-winning business coach and mindset mentor to female entrepreneurs. If you're ready to own your brilliance while making bank, step into the absolute best version of you, and become a force for positive change in the world, you're in the right place. Let's do it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. You're listening to She's Got This. I'm your host, Christine Gallagher, and I'm thrilled that you joined me today. Welcome. Today, we're talking about one of the most potent ways to use your imagination to create what you want in real life. Now, there are a lot of techniques out there, and it's important to remember that it's not the technique that brings about what you want, it's the state that the technique actually puts you in. So the most important thing is inhabiting the state of already having what you want. So in other words, go to the end. The one we're talking about today is one that I personally have found a lot of success with, but if it doesn't resonate, there are other ways to get yourself into the state of the wish fulfilled. You just have to see which ones work best for you. And in my experience, this way works the best and the fastest. How I induce the state of the wish fulfilled is through the state akin to sleep, or SATS for short. So this is a Neville Goddard method, but what you'll find with manifestation is that no matter who the teacher is, they all come to the same conclusion, that the best way to create what you want is to feel you already have it. So the state akin to sleep, right before you go to sleep or right after you wake up, is a really potent state because this is where your body is relaxed, but you still have control over your mind. So the racing thoughts from your day subside and you're in this sort of blissful, half awake, half asleep state. So the desires you envision in your mind as having already happened by living in the end can't help but come to fruition from that place. So here's how it works. First, you want to decide what it is you want. Then you come up with an event that you believe you will encounter once your desire is fulfilled. So in other words, an event involving you that would imply that what you want has already happened. And you can choose a scene, any scene that would come after the realization of your desire. And it's also good if you can add sensory vividness to the scene that you choose. So for example, if you're walking, don't just see yourself walking, feel yourself walking. If you're climbing the stairs, feel yourself climbing the stairs. And you want to keep it short, like 10 to 15 seconds. And it can be as simple as you being congratulated by someone. If you're not sure what scene to pick, choose the one that invokes the most emotional response within you. And just know that if you think of one later that feels like an even better fit, you can switch over to that scene. So for example, if your desire is to land a certain big client, then your scene could be your best friend hugging you tight and saying congratulations on getting the client. Another example would be if you wanted to be with a particular person and the end goal was to be married to them, picture you and the person exchanging rings at the wedding and actually feel the rings being slipped on the fingers, or the person kissing you and feeling what that actually feels like after you hear you may now kiss. Or you could even take it further and choose a scene that's actually beyond the wedding. So maybe it's you and your person cuddling on the couch in the home that you share, and you see the rings on both of your fingers. So you get the idea. So remember, it's about shifting your state. So it's okay to choose a few different scenes and loop them individually until it feels real. This is how I personally do it. I run through a small handful of scenes, all implying that the wish has been fulfilled. And I choose different scenes that all lead to that same wish being fulfilled. So if you're doing this for the first time, I usually say create a single scene first and get used to that. And then you could always add to it later. Your mind at first may want to overcomplicate this, but don't, because it's actually pretty simple. Then you create a drowsy, sleepy state. So what this means is just a state where you feel very relaxed, which is why it's described as the state of consciousness akin to sleep. So personally, I find the best time to do this is when I get in bed at night and I'm ready to fall asleep. So it's that state where you haven't quite drifted off, but you're on the way there. But you can get into this state any time of day. For example, some people find it easy to get into this state as they're meditating. Then you mentally feel yourself in the scene until your mind is dominated with the sensation of the fulfillment. So the key is to feel you are actually living the scene in the here and now, so that you're experiencing in your imagination what you would experience in reality were you now to realize your goal. Then you would repeat the scene on a loop in your sleepy state until it seems real to you, almost like you have forgotten you're imagining it. So when people say they can't reach this state, it means that they aren't repeating the scene long enough. So you'll want to go back to the beginning of the scene if you get distracted and keep repeating it. So the point is to feel as if you have already accomplished it. And when we talk about feeling, yes, that could be the emotions of it. But for me, it's more about a sense of knowing, an inner knowing that it is done, and a sense of accomplishment. So it's not so much imagining getting what you want and being in an excited state as it is being in the state of who you'd be if you were experiencing your desired reality. Then you either fall asleep while you're repeating the scene or wake up from the drowsy state once you know it's done. And if you're somebody who has trouble visualizing, you can use a slightly different technique called the lullaby method. So instead of picturing the scene, you could repeat a phrase to yourself over and over again, building the feeling of it being true. So a phrase that, again, would imply the wish fulfilled. So what does all of this do? This impresses your subconscious at a time when it is most receptive and the least effort is required. And then while you're sleeping, your mind goes to work on it. So the subconscious is very key here because it's non-selective by nature. And so it basically accepts what you feel, whether that's positive or negative, and creates it in your world. So you impress your subconscious through feeling as though it's already done. So once you do this consistently, what I noticed is that at a certain point, you literally begin waking up in the morning with a sense of knowing that it is done. That's how I know a switch has been flipped in my mind. So instead of feeling anxious or worried or impatient that what you want isn't here, you start feeling calm and relaxed because you know it is done. Even if the 3D is showing you otherwise, that does not matter because all the 3D is showing you is how you've been feeling about something up until you start living in the end. So there is some lag time before reality catches up, but it is law that it must. So once I shift into that knowing in my waking hours, it's like I close my mind to any other possibility other than the outcome that I want. In fact, this just happened last week with something I'm currently doing SATs for. I shifted from feeling unsure and nervous and unsatisfied to a calm space of knowing it is done. And this is magical when it happens because it's telling you that what you want is on its way and it's only a matter of time. When I get into this place, I know that I have assumed my desire and I have assumed it true and I'm no longer questioning it. And what happens is the resistance starts to decrease. So it's just a matter of persisting in that state where it feels natural, which becomes easier and easier because of what you're doing during SATs. And it makes sense because when you get the thing that you want, you feel exhilarated in the beginning, but you wouldn't hold that state constantly once you have what you want. Just like multimillionaires don't stay in this giddy state of, I'm a multimillionaire 24/7. They just are. Neville actually had a term for this. He called it the Sabbath. So the desire has manifested and it's just not yet seen on the earthly plane. So something could happen completely contradictory to your desire and it would not even faze you because you just know you already have it. So when things happen, I've conditioned myself to see them as simply part of a bridge of incidents that are leading to my desire. So maintaining the state of the wish fulfilled is just another way to say that you just know it's going to happen. It's a place of calm, happy expectation, and you can do SATs for as long as you want to do it. But once it feels real, you'll typically lose your desire to do it because it is done. It doesn't mean it's not important to you anymore. It's just that if you have the thing, you're not in that initial ecstatic state all the time, because that would be unnatural and also pretty exhausting. So what you're going for is a natural and effortless vibe. Now, one of the things that's common when you first start doing this is you might keep falling asleep before you really get to loop your scene. So don't beat yourself up because it just takes practice. I personally noticed that that would happen much more in the beginning, and now it doesn't happen much at all because I've trained my brain, and now it's like it nudges me awake in the moment so that I catch myself and go into my scene. So now what about the time when you're not about to go to sleep, like during your waking hours when you're going about your day? Well, I go into this more in episode 2 of this podcast. So if you haven't listened to it, you'll want to do that. But essentially it boils down to your self-concept and mental diet. But the truth is the time period before you go to sleep, let's say the 10 minutes before, is crucial to creating your life. The concept of yourself that you have as you slip into sleep is what manifests outward. In fact, it's amazing when you hear in your real life the same things you heard in your inner conversations during sats. It's a little freaky, but it is fascinating. So fall asleep in the wish fulfilled, because doing otherwise only keeps you in states that you don't want. But here's the best thing about it for me. A lot of the stress and the upstream feeling that I've had in the past when it comes to thinking about which strategy to choose or which actions to take in my business has dissolved. So I still take action and do the practical things, but they are things that I'm actually guided to do now. So the energy that you're directing when you impress your subconscious starts to guide what you do. The energy is what creates the bridge of incidents leading to your desire. To me, this feels so much better because it feels like you're in flow. Instead of racking your brain, trying to figure out what you should do next, or getting caught up in the how, you can have the energy you're intentionally directing do the heavy lifting. And what I find is that you are led to the right things to do at the right time. To be honest, one of the big reasons I hadn't enjoyed my business in a long time was because I would get so caught up in the how. And in the past, I would hear people say, you don't need to know the how. And I would be like, what? Because I was always the strategy girl. Of course, I needed the how. I needed the step-by-step, and I needed it right away. So this has allowed me to let go so much more and trust that I'm being guided, because I asked to be guided, and I see in my mind's eye how I ultimately want things to go. And then I'm shown what to do. So it's a relief because I get to free up all that energy I used to put into figuring it all out. And again, it's not that you don't do the things that are practical, but you've got some co-creative help in the process that influences your decisions and your choices. So the best thing about that is that I have now unraveled this connection I always had between working hard and hustling and bringing in money. I feel like that is kind of the brute force way to do it. Now, does it work? Yes, but at this point, that's not how I want it to work for me. Now I have a core belief where I trust I'll be shown what to do next, and my assumption becomes fact. And actually, if you think about it, we're creating our life all the time. We just do it kind of willy-nilly, and half the time we don't even realize it. We're doing it by default. So it all starts in our imagination. So I figure, why not be intentional about it? Because we have the choice to do that. So for example, if you want X and you had impressed the subconscious successfully, then it would feel effortless to take the actions necessary to get X. You wouldn't second guess it. Now, on the other hand, if you want the thing and consciously you're thinking, okay, once I do X, Y, and Z, then I'll get it. That's not truly inspired action to me. It's more like trying to force it. So the thing to remember is that life responds to us based on our state. What we experience in the 3D is only showing us what our concept of ourselves is, and we are in total control of that. So SATS is one way to condition yourself to this new way of being automatically. And who are you in this new state of being? It's the version of you who believes, expects, knows, and trusts. That's why you want to pay attention to the state that you're embodying. How are you showing up? Are you a victim of circumstance or someone who knows that they are the operant power? And only you can decide that. When you get that the reality you're experiencing is just a projection of what you're assuming, you realize there's nothing to be worried about. That's the way I choose to believe that life works for me, and so it does. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or share it with someone else who would find it helpful. To stay connected with me, please visit she'sgotclients.com and sign up for my email list at the bottom of the page. Or feel free to share this episode on your Instagram and tag me at Christine G, and I'll repost you. I would love to share this with as many people as possible. I love you. Until next time, keep shining your light.